So I need to talk to you guys about fat loss. For some reason, we're all taught how to lose fat. We're all taught that, oh, if you eat at a deficit, you work out, you do these things, you'll do these things for a short period of time, and then you lose weight. Great. Unfortunately, it doesn't usually end up that way, right? Either you go into a plan or you go into a diet, you may lose the weight, and then more likely than not, you end up gaining all the way back and then some. Really, the biggest question about fat loss is, how do you keep the weight off? What do you do once you reach your goal? And the key to understanding how to accomplish that comes with knowing what the body is trying to do to prevent you to lose fat in the first place. So I want to tell you about 3 things that the body does to prevent you to lose fat loss, and then what you can do to understand how to fight your body fighting you from losing fat. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is metabolic adaptation. What this is your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure, which consists of your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. So what happens is when you diet, your body thinks that you're starving to some degree. So what it wants to do is it wants to adjust the amount of energy that you output naturally. So that is your BMR. Your BMR is, in a word, or in a shortly put, the amount of energy that you expend just existing. So when you start to diet, your body naturally starts to dial that down, because if you're putting less in, your body's going to put less out. So it's going to lower that to fight your fat loss, or fight your whatever caloric deficit you're in. So, and the more you're in a deficit, the lower that gets. And that's why people reach plateaus, because people will start at a diet at a specific caloric intake or whatever for the diet, then they plateau and don't understand why. It's, well, you were eating at a deficit until your body decided to catch up and lower its metabolism. So now you're not at a deficit anymore. What used to be a deficit is now just what you have to eat to maintain. So now you have to go on a deficit again. So that's the first thing your body does to adjust. Okay, so let's talk about the second way your body prevents you, or fights to prevent you from losing fat. So you have these things in your body called adipocytes. Those are your fat cells, essentially. Now what happens is when you go on a diet, those fat cells shrink. Obviously they're fat cells, so they hold fat. When they're shrinking, it's as good, because it means you're losing fat. But with those adipocytes, they release hormones. They release a hormone called leptin. Leptin is your satiety hormone. It lets you know that you're satiated and to stop eating. So the more of it releases, the more satiated you are. You don't feel like you need to eat. When they're smaller, they release more ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and that's what's telling you, feed me because I need to eat. So when those fat cells are full, then they're releasing more leptin. But when you're on a diet, they're shrinking. So they're releasing more ghrelin, and they're telling you that you're hungry, you need to eat. So that's the first way. The second thing it does is that when your fat cells shrink, they become primed to absorb more, or they become extremely insulin sensitive. So insulin is what the body releases to absorb, for your body to be triggered to absorb carbohydrates or glucose into the body. Well, we typically think of that in terms of the muscles, which is true, that does do that, but your fat cells also do the same thing, and then they become extremely sensitive the smaller they get to insulin. So your body makes you more hungry, it releases more of the hunger hormone, and your fat cells become extremely sensitive to insulin. All right, if all of that wasn't bad enough, there is one more way your body prevents you from losing fat. So when you go really, really, really deep into a cut, your body has your T3 levels become really low. T3 is what's released from your thyroid, which regulates your energy regulation in your body. That becomes low, and your leptin, as we just discussed, becomes really low. When those two things are low, is usually at a point where a person has finished their diet, especially if they go really, really deep into a diet. Then what usually happens is, I reach my diet, I can go back to eating the way I did before. with no concern about the things I just mentioned before. And then you have this to think about. So when you start, when the body detects rapid, let's say, consumption of food after a diet, and when it has low T3 and then low leptin, what it does is it produces more fat cells. So on top of the fat cells that you have shrunk, and that when those fat cells start to grow because now you're eating a lot more, it also produces pre-adipocytes. Then those adipocytes become adipocytes. So let's say, for example, your existing fat cells were full at, like, let's say they at 100%, they held 5 pounds of fat. Now you'll have twice that, because your new adipocytes will now grow to the same size as your old adipocytes, and now they will now also hold 5 pounds of fat. So this explains why people who start to binge eat or go back to their old ways of eating after a diet gain even more weight. They gain not only twice as fast, they gain more weight than they did before. So your body is constantly, it's primed, it's literally primed for weight gain after a diet. So now the question becomes, how do you fight this, and how do you prevent weight loss? I mean, how do you prevent this weight gain, this weight regain? Okay, so the very first thing you need to know about how to prepare for a diet or weight loss is you need to get rid of the temporary mindset. You need to get rid of the mindset that, this is, I'll diet for a couple months, I'll lose the weight, then I'll just go back to doing whatever I did before. That's nonsense. It's not going to work for you. You're going to fail. You're going to have terrible results, and you're never going to want to diet or eat well again. So what you need to know is that losing weight at the least is a two-step process. It's a two-step process. It is losing the weight and it is maintaining the weight loss. Okay, so what you can do to fight against the first two problems, which is metabolic adaptation, and then the issue with your adipocytes shrinking, releasing less leptin and releasing more ghrelin and being insulin sensitive, is just remember, your body is going to adapt. So when you're on a diet, do not think, oh, I'm going to eat at this deficit for forever. That's not going to work for you. You are going to have to adjust after some time. You are going to have to decrease your calories, let's say after a few weeks, maybe a month or so. Depending on your activity, depending on your diet, you are going to have to pull those calories down after a while. You can wait till you've plateaued. You can measure yourself on the scale. Once you see that there's no weight loss, okay, I need to bring it down another, 100 calories or another 200 calories. So you're still in that range for fat loss. So you don't need to panic and say, oh, this diet's not working now. No, you just adapted. Your metabolism is just adapted. Just eat a little bit less. Don't go crazy, because the harder you diet, the harder your adaptation will be. So if you do it moderately, you get long-term success and you don't overstress your metabolic adaptation. The other thing you do is remember that you're in a diet. Remember that your body is going to try and tell you that you're hungry when you're not, because your body doesn't want to lose weight. That is simple as that. Be conscious of the fact that, when you eat, you're staying within your calories, and your body from time to time is going to send those signals to tell you that you're hungry, especially when you're in that initial cut. You know it right away, but after a few weeks, you see a little results, you start to forget. Just be conscious of it. So doing those two things will help you be successful against the body's fight in fighting you. So the last thing you can do is, again, I'll go back to what I said at the start, is remembering this is a long-term battle. So when you lose fat, when you're at your goal, congratulations, you've done the hard work, you've got there, you lost those 10, 15, 20 pounds, you look better, you feel better. But now what do? You definitely do not go back to eating like you were before, because you will gain all that weight back. You need to do, at the very least, what's called a reverse diet. A reverse diet is simply slowly increasing your calories back up, and for lack of better detail, go the same way you came. How you decreased your calories at that same rate, increase them at that same rate. That will slowly repair your BMR, so it will get your metabolism. So remember, you don't have the metabolism that you did when you started. Your body has adapted now. So if you eat like you did before, you're going to be at a huge surplus and you're going to gain those calories fast. Not to mention you're going to go over because your body's primed to store more of the fat instead of burning it off. So what you do to fight that is you just go slowly. Eat slowly, do what's called a reverse diet. Increase your calories slowly over the period of a couple weeks, couple months. Those, without going into big detail or greater detail, that is how you fight your body fighting you lose fat. It is not a one and done thing. At the very least, it is a two-step process that is going to last you a long time. But if you're trying to lose weight, it's just fine because you're in it for the long haul anyway. Who wants to gain the fat back? So you need to know what to do to keep the fat off. So that's my information. Those are my tips. I hope this helps you guys. I'll see you on the next one.